I absolutely love what Trajan Langdon is doing. This is an offseason where, and we teed this up leading up to the draft and up to free agency, that I do believe that this team is looking to make some tweaks and where they can strike without hamstringing things for the future, like Trajan Langdon said, that's what they were going to do. And that next offseason is one where I think you're going to see more fireworks, even if those fireworks are the extensions of Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, Marcus Sasser. Even if it's just that, because then that means that these guys did take the necessary steps forward, and they did prove, at least for Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey, they're taking that step towards stardom. They're taking that step towards, these are the players that we do need. We don't have to look for our 5 of the future. We don't have to look for our 2 of the future. We don't have to look for our backup point guard. We know that, or a combo guard. We know that Sasser can lock it down. And so when you see the Pistons doing what they do here, it's more of, like I said, that front office underneath Trajan Langdon is hands down one of the best in all of the NBA. They understand the cap. They understand the CBA. They understand, I believe, other teams' caps better than they even do. When you see how they got Dennis Schroeder, and now you see that they're about to potentially flip this thing into a trade exception, that's amazing. That's amazing.
It gives them
that. But that's what I'm saying. This is why when Michael Blackstone was hired and we started to look at the different parts and pieces going into the front office, this is why we got excited about it. I remember doing that episode. It didn't get much, it didn't generate much engagement. But right now it sure is. At the trade deadline, it sure was. And this, to me, is the power of a Trajan Langdon at president of basketball operations. They haven't had this in a long time. They haven't had one singular voice in that office for a long time who can delegate properly, who understands what he understands, and can put people in the right places to do the job effectively. And that's what I believe we see happening right here, because we all thought this thing was dead on arrival. But the more and more I'm thinking about it, maybe they believe, we can have our cake and we can eat it too. They bolstered the start of free agency with the Beasley news by getting LeVert. They probably went out there and said, maybe we like the fit of Duncan Robinson a little bit better. I don't think Trajan Langdon dragged his feet. I think Trajan Langdon did what Trajan Langdon wanted to do. Because the Kings media and so many people I saw put it out there that, Trajan Langdon thought he was going to make the Kings wait. Well, did he? They still waiting. He got his guys and still might get something else. Yeah. That's called cooking.
Yes, it is. And remember yesterday when we talked to Rod Beard, I had mentioned how the Karis LeVert signing, I came around on, even though at first I was at first I was a little like, but when I dug more deep into it, I'm like, okay, this could work. The Duncan Robinson signing I was happy about, but was I completely satisfied? Not quite yet, although not angry. But what Trajan Langdon was able to do, and Chase, if you have the Omari Sankofa tweet, you can put it up. Whether you can or can't, I will read it. Source, this is from Omari Sankofa. He's a Pistons beat reporter. The Dennis Schroeder signing will be a sign-and trade between the Pistons and Kings. That will allow the Pistons to take back up to $22.6 million, or will generate a player exception worth $14.3 million. If they don't take a player back, either way they gain flexibility. And save that for a couple of minutes, Chase, because we're going to talk more about that, because it was a quote tweeted and it could lead to some interesting conversations. So, how the F were they able to do that for Dennis Schroeder? Do you think part of it is taking advantage of the Kings organization, which has proven since the early 2000s, since their heyday, to be a little dumb?
You know what? I think that the Kings organization today has a better structure than prior. Sure. And I do believe that when you look at the grand scheme of things, like how this NBA water is starting to bubble up with this mega trade that's being rumored and such, I do believe that there's some teams that are seeing some opportunities to strike, whether it's getting a player that they covet and think that they can help them the next steps ahead, or whether it's you can do something cap strategy wise to put yourself in a better position. And I do believe right now that is what the Kings are trying to do. I wonder right now if they have pivoted somewhat and believe that they are a squad that can go and compete in the West next year with what they have, because this offseason started with them seemingly wanting to trade everything. Domantas Sabonis was up for in rumors. We understood Malik Monk's name came up in some rumors, but now it's a situation where they've gone and they've signed people and they haven't traded those guys. So it is interesting to see how they're operating, and I think that right now what you see is them stuck in between two places. They had a strategy, and now they're looking at, look at the roster we have. We actually, it's not horrible.
No.
But, and you look at this. if that big old deal goes down between these other teams, the Kings are probably looking at this thing and saying, maybe we can go and compete based on where the chips fall.
Maybe. It's tough with them because I still see play-in, maybe. And that's not really the best situation to be in. They've kind of, I would say that they've underachieved in the last couple of years, taking the Warriors to 7 in that series and then kind of falling off of a cliff after that. They've obviously got some talent, a lot of vets, I would say, a couple of former Chicago Bull vets, which is very, very interesting. Obviously, Sabonis, they still got Monk, they still got Keegan Murray. They're definitely not bad. Roster, yeah, man. Right. Those are nice pieces. I don't. It's hard to say what they're doing. Like you said, they're in a weird purgatory limbo. Not the worst, but also not advantageous either.
Similar to Trajan Langdon, though, and that's what I'm saying. Remember, Trajan, did he not say the same thing? Like, whoa, we had a plan, but these guys are a whole lot better than we actually expected. So now we have a different plan, and that's where I believe the Kings, underneath their new management, I believe that they might be there. I believe the old management, you absolutely would have seen 3 or 4 players traded by now. Absolutely. Yeah, Keegan Murray would have been out of there, and they would have traded him for like 4 first-round picks, and they'd be like, huh? You know, if you got a guy like that, you're not trying to trade him for just first-round picks. He's already a young player. You're trying to trade him for somebody established. But these are the things that we've seen them do in the past. And so I'm looking forward to seeing exactly where they go from here, which side they lean into, because the free agency off-season period is not done yet. And I do believe that they have a lot of pieces that teams around the league are probably looking at like, hey, I mean, if you're looking to get rid of somebody, which was why I got so excited when Kavasier Chase talked about Sabonis in our previous free agency talk when we were talking about the shooter to the Kings trade, is because we understand exactly who the Kings have been, but they don't seem like they're operating the same way. Them creating this, honestly, let me put it this way, because when Troy Weaver got the trade exception for the Jeremy Grant sign and trade, it was effectively when he gave it to Denver, it was effectively him saying, you know what, thank you guys, and saying we'll create this for you. So this might be one of those situations too, where the Kings, they get the ability to say, you know what, we will engage in this, we will give you this. And so that's why I look at this new front office here and I say, you know what, Kings are doing things today a whole lot differently than we saw them do prior.
No, that's fair. They maybe calling them dumb right now is a little disrespectful, but they were. There was
the previous generation.
There was a time.
Well, like whatever Vlade, Joe Dumars, whatever was going on during those years, it was like, what are they doing?
Look at their drafts.
I had no idea.
Between like 2010 and 2018, besides for De'Aaron Fox, they're morbid. Shout out our old friend Marvin Bagley.
But it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here, because you got this big trade exception, and obviously they can utilize that between now. They can utilize that by the trade deadline. I'm wondering now, where's Trajan's mind at? Is it a backup 4? Is it another wing? Is it another guard? This thing is going to be interesting, because even when you look at what the Kings still have on their roster, I think Travis in the chat just said, man, he would love Keegan Murray. You look at everything from Malik Monk, Keegan Murray, John Collins. You know what I mean? It's still out there. It's like there are still some options for the Detroit Pistons to be able to make an impactful move this offseason.
Hey, and speaking of which, glad you mentioned Keegan Murray, Travis, in the chat, because speaking of our company group chat, Chris Platty, thank you for earlier on at about 7:15. Shout out to the heavyweights, giving me some ammunition for the show, because he posted in our chat a tweet from Kyle Metz. He's a Pistons content creator, I believe, for the home
shout
court.
Out Kyle Metz. He's been on Woodward Pistons Table Talk as well.
A shout out to Kyle Metz, friend of the network. He actually came up with a list of forwards. He's just singling out forwards, but I think it's interesting, that fit into Schroeder sign-in trade as is. And that is, he was quoting the Omari Sankofa tweet. And Chase, if you want to put that one up really quick, it was the one from earlier.
Yes, I know. I got you, Sam.
I appreciate it. All right, so the list is Kyle Kuzma, Dylan Brooks, Harrison Barnes, Rui Hachimura, Patrick Williams, Keldon Johnson, Jonathan Isaac, PJ Washington, Obi Toppin, Jared Vanderbilt, and Keegan Murray. Do any of these names sound enticing?
Are you sure it's Jared Vanderbilt and not the University of Vanderbilt, we can put on the roster.
Hey, shout out, Simeon, our Vanderbilt
Mr.
insight.
C.
Hey, Diego Pavia, anyone?
Pavia. Tune in to
Williams.
Big D later.
If Troy Weaver's here, Patrick Williams would probably be on the scene right now. That was somebody that he was absolutely fawning over, and I like the skill set he brings. But for me, for some reason, I like the back half of this list a little more than the top half of it.
I would agree with that.
I definitely do. I'm looking at some names there. Like, do you buy the risk, high reward of a Jonathan Isaac? Do you like, the energy of the guys like Patrick Williams and Keldon Johnson? I know there's a lot of love out there for Obi Toppin because you're getting one of those NBA ready guys who can do a plethora of things out there on the court and defend on the other side. And then there was infatuation with Keegan Murray because we all, no matter who your favorite draft pick was, we all had to fall in love with one of the ones that could be up there. We all fell in love with, well, at least we know we're going to get one of these top 5 to 7 players. And Keegan Murray was one of those guys that we knew. If we do get him, at least we know we're getting a young shooter. So I like whatever, if you come away with anybody on this list, anybody, it will help the Detroit Pistons next year. But there are some on this list I do believe adds a little bit more to when you talk about versatility, when you're talking about being able to fit right into a system, really day one. I like some of these names up here.
No, it's interesting because you see quite a variety, even though they're all like technically forwards.
Yeah,
if you
PJ
want
Washington.
If you want like defensive focused players, obviously you got Dylan Brooks, you've got Jared Vanderbilt, Jonathan Isaac is the one with the most size. He's 6'10", although
Injuries.
definitely has a big injury history, and I don't really love him as an offensive player. To me, there are 3 on this list that are my favorite, and not in any particular order, but I will just go the order as they appear on the list. Rui Hachimura is intriguing to me. So is Obi Toppin, and so is Keegan Murray. And and honestly, probably the one I'm most intrigued with right now, and maybe it's recency bias. If the Pistons could get Obi Toppin, man.
My 3: PJ Washington,
Yeah.
Keegan Murray, and Obi Toppin.
There we go. So we
got 2 of the 3
on Obi Toppin.
And I'm a Rui fan. My household is a Rui fan. Like, my kids are Rui fans because he's a Blasian.
Rui fan.
He's a Blasian.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
They like Rui Hachimura. Yeah, and I like whatever they want to, their culture, whatever excites them. I try to support that.